Heyo! This video is more mature than the stuff I usually talk about. It's all in the context of historic education, though. Still PG-13, maybe a little higher. You've been warned. With the over a terabyte of official Game Freak information being slowly leaked online right now, there's a lot of folks who want clout and attention and to just make things worse, so they are throwing things like fanfics and fan art and fakemon into the mix. And there is a semi-decent chance that this not safe for work Pokémon zoophilia stories that have been going around are a part of that. But there's also a good chance it's not. If you don't know, there are 4 short stories going around that were supposedly written by a Game Freak developer in the offices, and those stories involve diddly doodly with a piddly poodly. It's sex with Pokemon, as if that isn't one of the most common things on adult furry sites. But I get it, it's different when it's actually from Game Freak's orifice offices. Even though this kind of thing has been referenced already in the Gen 4 games, albeit not as explicitly. We'll get to that. So the fan base is going a bit wild, if not degenerately, then finger-waggedly, or my poor innocence is ruined! And then there's me, an almost chronically online 30-year-old who spent nearly his entire adult life studying Pokemon for a living. There is not a single innocent molecule in my body, and I'm standing here now to say, no, this isn't like Game Freak's demise. This isn't like some big dark thing that's gonna blow up in their face and cause a huge global scandal and Nintendo's gonna come crashing down and no longer make games because of some text documents. Guys, y'all are making a mountain out of a molehill. These write-ups are excellent for world-building exercises, and were never meant to be seen by anyone outside of Game Freak. And remember, deleted canon is non-canon. The people saying, how could they do this in a game or anime made for kids? And, like, that's exactly why it's not in the games or the anime. It's just on a developer's computer. It's a world-building exercise, trying to take real-world mythology and see how to apply it to the Pokemon world. And they are honestly extremely tame, all things considered. In the Typhlosion story, Typhlosion is like mini yokai, apparently, able to illusory make themselves appear to be human, and the Typhlosion tricks a girl into living with him, and they get happily married even though it's all a trick. And then they have babies. The Octillery story is as explicit as man finds Octillery, has relations with it, and later the talking Octillery says, hey, here's our child, please take care of him. The Lapras story is basically an early draft of the Octillery story. There's a 5th one, it's Rapidash! And even it isn't extremely explicit, it's just, hey, I'm Rapidash, this is my husband, human man. Now Ponyta start appearing in a field over time. And the Slack-Off story is the most explicit, though it leans more on violence than sex. And even then, it's just some humans were being cruel to a Slack-Off. A Vigoroth defended the Slack-Off, and one of the women lost consciousness in the attack. She woke up in a cave with a Slacking much later, and then much later, she gave birth to a Slack-Off. Like, yeah, that's a bit weird and messed up, but again, this is not the scandalous cancel Game Freak fetishization story that folks are claiming it to be. These stories are trying to invoke real-world mythology. I mean, have you seen real-world mythology? Loki gets freaky with a horse, and then he gives birth to an 8-legged horse. The Nile River is literally Osiris's junk, and pharaohs have to masturbate into the Nile, or the helpful floods won't come. Zeus is like, hey mortal, want to have a go with me? And she's all, oh no, heavens not. Maybe if you were a goose though. Repeat with different animals, dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times. Minotaur lore, anyone? Gilgamesh's entire epic happened because he turned down an advance from a goddess because she frequently does the deed with a gang of goats. Gilgamesh thinks that's icky, and so she killed his male wife. Sedna from Inuit mythology was offered a plethora of fine potential husbands, but she turned them all down because none of them were as good in bed as the dog. She later was forced to marry a bird, though. The Hindu god Shiva is all like, hey, Agni, my fellow man, quick, turn into a parrot and give me a and swallow my so that when you later have sex with your wife, she will have my child. because that's totally how it works. Another time Pandu is just casually telling a story which just so happens to include, while I was engaged with sexual intercourse with this deer, and like, there's still Hindu temples with statues depicting this kind of thing, and many parts of Hinduism still allow this kind of behavior on certain animals. And just how many specific mythical beings from across the planet can be summarized as a luring woman, possibly with animal parts, says, "Greetings, traveling human male. Would you like to join me for some sexy time over there where nobody can see us?" And then she kills him. I assume the names are still scrolling by. I could go on for eons. And Japan! Oh gosh, Japan! And there's the old trope and stereotype that Japan is like super into tentacles, and there's a historic reason for it. Artwork depicting human sex was punishable in the 17 and 1800s, so the artists got creative. There's no wiener in this art. It's not sex. That's an octopus. Even to this day, prawns depicting zoophilia is still legal there, but not unpixelated privates. But still, ask any folklorist or any mythology expert from any part of the globe and they'll tell you about the zoophilia in it. Global mythology! If it's not bestiality, it's incest. So again, I don't think these Pokemon stories are needless fetish write-ups worthy of a big scandal. They were likely written as a baseline, let's take the local legends from the real world and Pokemonify them. Actually, the Rapidash one is labeled as, I have to go look at it again, Native American ecology philosophy, and reading through the whole thing, it does just kind of sound like all the Native American folktales I've read over the years. And now that we have some of these written up, we'll work backwards from there and make it appropriate for Pokemon. It's just like how a lot of the Gen 3 concept art in this leak looks so out there. Like, look at this Cacturn concept art. And all the others from this set. How are these Pokemon? They are horrifying! Well, that's the thing, they're not. Not yet. The designers are getting all of their ideas put on paper as pure as they can make them from their heads, and then they work backwards to Pokemonify them. Like, Cacturn is still a spooky, messed up creep in the lore. It's a horrifying stalker that hunts you in the desert and uses sand for blood. So here's the horrifying original concept art of that idea, and now we need to work from this and Pokemonify it. Same deal with these stories, because this kind of thing is referenced in-game, albeit in an even tamer way. In the Ken Alive library in Sinnoh, you can read a history book that says, "There once were people that married Pokemon. This was a normal thing, because long ago, people and Pokemon were the same." And from there you can infer, what is it that married couples do that is okay for a married couple, but not okay for a not married couple? Of course, that is just the original Japanese. It was changed dramatically in the West. But it's incredibly fitting because of Ainu mythology, the people indigenous to Hokkaido, which Sinnoh is based on, which is where this library is. The Ainu creation story, not the creation of all creation, but the creation of the Ainu themselves, summarizes as, goddess has sex with wolf, gives birth to the first litter of Ainu. The Ainu did not see themselves as different from animals, the way most humans do today, and this belief is incredibly common as the core of early indigenous religion across the planet. Hence, basically all of them containing rather explicit bestiality in their mythos. I mean,
when me want wife, but woman say no, and me too weak to bonk with bonk stick, what me do? Dear, we humans, more intelligent than animal, but we still not great spirit, or gods. Clearly, gods did diddy party with animals. Made us!
And zoophilia goes back, way back. Basically, almost as long as we've been painting in caves, we've been painting art of dirty deeds done with sheep. Though, of course, it wasn't this casual, everyday kind of thing that most people got involved with. Most people throughout all of history have had this built-in aversion to such activities, as it's dangerous, disease-spreading, weird. It wasn't until Abrahamic religions came around that it was explicitly prohibited broadly. But with the Western world being culturally dominated by the legacy of Christianity, it makes sense that our gut reactions to these kinds of writing and Pokemon would be broadly negative. In my honest opinion, I do think it's a bit weird. Like, I'd never spend time writing something like this. But like, humans are weird. You know, have you seen humans? Have you seen our history? Our stories? It ain't even ancient. What is Beauty and the Beast or King Kryn or Baldur's Gate 3? The answer is still weird. But there's nothing wrong with trying to write a folktale or four in your made-up universe that happens to sound a lot like real-world mythology and folklore. That's just a world-building exercise, a lore-making exercise. It makes the world that you're creating feel more real because you're basing it on real stories. And again, it was never meant to be public. Honestly, many things in Pokemon are likely originally written to be more mature and real, and then they figure out how to make them more appropriate for Pokemon itself, the thing targeted as being appropriate for kids, afterwards. I just told my wife about all this and showed her the stories, and her immediate reaction is like, and the fans are responding like that? Notably, she's also super into mythology and folklore stuff. How is this any worse than like Frostlass specifically hunting handsome men and pretty boys and freezing them solid and hanging their corpses up as decorational trophy things? How is this worse? And the answer, of course, is because Western civilization, for whatever reason, sex in any capacity whatsoever, murder, mass murder, targeting handsome men and hanging their corpses up for display. Yeah, we're gonna have to go with sex being the worst one. You know, the thing that we need to continue living as a species, and that a good 99% of people are, like, interested in. You know, definitely the worst one. But that's just my 2 cents. And now that you have those, could you check out my merch store, please? We got a little sale going on. Get some goodies. And never stop using your noggin. Want to know how the ancient Egyptians found out crocodile dung makes for decent birth control? No, you don't.